So I'm genuinely delighted that I'm being joined by James, Andros and Ella, who are from Off the Record, amazing charity here in Bath. And we're going to find out a little bit more about exactly what it is that Off the Record does and what plans you have going on at the moment. So thank you so much for joining me, all of you. James, if I could just start with you, please, and if you could tell me a little bit and give me a brief introduction to Off the Record and exactly what the charity is all about.
Sure, Toby, thanks. Well, I'm the development manager at Off the Record. We're a local charity. We work across Baines, and we support young people with their mental health and emotional well-being. We work with young people aged through from 10 to 25 who are living, working or studying in Baines. And we do that in a wide variety of ways. I guess we originally came into being as a counselling service for young people, but we've developed enormously in the last 30 years. It's our 30th anniversary this year. And we now do a lot of participation work. We've got an LGBTQ plus specific service, which I'm sure Ella and Andros will tell you more about. And we run youth forums, we run in-care councils, we run an advocacy service for young people in care, really quite a broad range of services. We work with over 2,300 young people directly a year, and we have about 35,000 contacts with young people.
That's fantastic, thank you. So if I could bring in Ella and Andros, could you tell me a little bit about your involvement with Off the Record?
Sure, I'll go first. So as James mentioned, I've been part of the LGBTQ plus services. I'm currently helping plan our second ever youth pride event, which is actually the first official pride event in Bath, which is quite exciting. I was also part of Youth Forum last year, who were the people that planned the first one, and we've done sort of campaigning on things that matter to young people. I'm mostly part of, so I do the pride planning. I attend Space Youth Group, which is an affinity group for LGBTQ plus young people, and we've done sort of just like an affinity space where young people can meet each other, make friends, but we've also done some quite important stuff as well. So there's been some guidance released for trans people, young people in schools that we've helped consult on response to, which has been sort of the more sort of heavy technical stuff that we have the opportunity to participate in. That was also actually raised by a lot of the young people. They heard about it and they were concerned about it and they wanted to do something about it. So and I'm also part of You're Off the Record, which is sort of voluntary. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Sounds like a natural point to pass over.
I'm obsessed by your idea.
Hi, I'm Andros. I am also part of Space Youth Group, which is where I got involved with Off the Record in the first place. I started attending there probably around 2 years ago now, and started really getting involved. I'm part of You're Off the Record, which is a group of young people who basically help to try to make help with some of the decisions that Off the Record needs to make with we do stuff with the interview process sometimes for new trustees, and we'll also go over any code of conduct or anything to make sure that we agree with everything that they're doing to help us.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So James alluded to a moment ago sort of just how many people across the local area you help, and Andros, I think you just said that you came to Off the Record through the space program, and so can you just how do people come to Off the Record, and specifically how did you guys end up or first hear about Off the Record?
Well, I found out about it through my friend who attended the Space Youth Group, and she invited me there one night. And through that, I just sort of attended there for about a year before I started getting really involved with everything. And yes, it's then like Harriet and Jack and James have all invited me to do different things throughout Off the Record. You can find it like through a lot of different ways. Like I know different people have found it through like counselling or like therapy or anything. But yeah, for me personally, it was through the Space Youth Group.
Yeah, and for me, I also got dragged along by someone I knew to Youth Forum. She's a real zealot for Youth Forum, and I ended up really enjoying it. And I also had a lot of friends who were part of Space, and it seemed like a nice thing. And then I think it was by going along to some of the things while I was publicising the Youth Forum Pride event, I was like, oh, Space is really lovely, and a lot of my friends went already, so I thought, may as well go. I think I'd mostly seen it on posters around school advertising the counselling and listening support services, and I just presumed that was all it was. And because you see it up there, it's just sort of part of your everyday life. And you're like, oh, it says Off the Record on there, but you don't register it. But then I actually heard like young people I knew who were saying how amazing it was, and I thought, yeah, I'd really like to come along. And I think doing stuff in my local area that makes a difference is something that I'm very passionate about, as well as thinking about things on a wider sort of national and international scale. Like for example, I'm quite involved in like the climate movement as well. But I think getting involved in things on a small scale was really lovely. So that's what kind of appealed to me, I guess.
Thank you. That's really interesting. And you started to mention a couple of sort of specific issues that are important to you there. So I just wonder, sort of based on the conversations you have with other people involved in Off the Record and your own experiences, what do you feel are the most important issues facing young people at the moment? Who wants to go first?
Well, I think that like, I mean, I don't want to get really political into this, but like our government, when it comes to like trans rights, is absolutely horrific. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Rishi Sunak has said some absolutely awful things. So at Space, we do have somebody there who works in Parliament, and he does a lot of like stuff with us, and will talk to us about if we want to go and talk to him about anything that's going on, then he will happily let us. And we've been doing some stuff with putting through our opinions to Off the Records for how they respond to this. To what Rishi has been saying. So yeah, for me, like recognition of trans rights is very important.
Sure.
Absolutely. I think you were saying I don't want to get political, but I feel like so much of everything, like I feel like as I've got older, I feel like you think of politics as this like thing that grown-ups sort of mumble about in a room. But I think as I've got older, me and all my friends have sort of just realized how much the big decisions are affecting our lives. And I think it's kind of, I don't know, as a young person, you have all the sort of the classic things like going to school, doing your exams, applying for uni, and then you're trying to do that, but at the same time, you're fearing climate collapse. You're seeing people getting killed in mass numbers every day, like through social media. It's horrible, and you see how your governments are like involved in that, and you see, as Andros mentioned, all the stuff about like trans rights, and it's really scary. And like trying to do that on top of trying to live a sort of baseline life as a young person is, I think, quite overwhelming. And then obviously on top of that means it's difficult processing sort of all of that. So mental ill health is, I mean, I don't know a young person, I think, who's feels entirely calm and regulated and sane all the time, because everything's so difficult. So I think having spaces like Off the Record where you're able to make a small difference in the areas that you can, and also build community, is really important. And just have young people around who are feeling the same things. Like even just hearing Andros say that is just really affirming for me, because it's not just I'm sat in my room terrified and feeling helpless. There are other young people out there that feel the same, and we can talk about it, and then that can move us to act in meaningful ways. I think that's, yeah, it's super important. But it's a lot for young people. I don't think it's just young people. I think it's everyone, to be honest. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like on top of what Ella was just saying, like young people and like young LGBTQ plus people, like in general, have a lot to worry about without all of the stuff that is put out by the government and by just people online anyway, with like opinions that are just not okay to ever really think about somebody else. Like we have enough to worry about with like exams, jobs, college, school, whatever. Without all of this other stuff, it's like thoughts of like, am I going to be safe walking through town today? Which just shouldn't be thought by a young person, but are because of the way that people online and the government are portraying things.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, James. Yeah.
I was just going to add in. I've had the privilege of going on space a few times. It's important for me in my role that I do actually come along and connect with the services, because obviously my job is to fundraise for them. But I think one of the most important things we can do is provide young people with a safe space in which to actually express their feelings, their views, their concerns, their anxieties, discuss them with each other, and then take action. Take action.
I know also, I think just the power of having community space is so important, because I know that I'm going to go to space and I'm not going to feel worried that, I don't know, if I bring up something about an aspect of my identity, someone's not going to go, well, does that really exist? Or like, oh, you're so weird, or like, I don't know, or like say something really horrible and that's just going to go unchallenged and be accepted as normal. I think it's just having a space where everybody's got similar experiences and they're able to connect on like with those experiences, and have adults that genuinely are safe space and they genuinely care about the well-being of young people, and they understand how affirming young people in their identity is. We also have a lot of, I would say, almost entirely neurodivergent at space as well. So having a space where not only you're free to explore sort of the aspects of your personality as an LGBTQ plus young person, but you're able to unmask and be true to yourself in a space where you aren't maybe able to do that outside. I think that's just so valuable, and it's not. I think I think Off the Record does have to be technically an A+ organisation because like the rules and stuff. But I think there's something kind of almost quietly political in just being able and like powerful in being able to let young people just be themselves in a world where they kind of aren't allowed to do that sometimes. I think it's very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I thank you for sharing that, and I think that's incredibly powerful. And certainly, I speak to contemporaries of my own who, I think that the whole thing about finding it hard to block out the noise, especially on social media, and you've mentioned a few times that the word sort of political or politicized. How we're all on the receiving end now of continual news is tough to take at the moment. We live in times where there is a barrage of constant bad news that's amplified through social media, and everything is heavily politicized. So I hearing what you say, and having to deal with that at the same time as also making key life decisions, and sort of having those kind of formative life experiences. I can see from what you say how that must feel very challenging at times. So I'm very grateful to you for sharing that. So maybe I'd like to focus on maybe a more sort of hopefully positive thing, which is coming back to Off the Record specifically, and the support and the initiatives that they are offering at the moment to young people in the area who might align with a lot of what you've just said and feel the same way. So specifically thinking about your Off the Record and the projects you're working on at the moment, can you tell me a little bit about that, please?
I think it's sort of a patchwork of things. As Andros said earlier, we've consulted on like guidance for the organisation, policies. We've done interviews. I've helped interview a few members of staff now, which has been really positive. I got my first job in October, and helping interview people really helped ease my anxiety on that front, because I knew what an interview was like. I knew what they might ask me and what they're looking for. That was brilliant. Yeah, do you want to say something else before I go off on one?
Yeah, so yeah, pretty much following what Ella said. I've also done some of the interview processes. And yeah, just being in the room when they're happening is really, really helpful and some like really valuable like experience to have. Especially when it comes to like when it comes to getting jobs when you need them, like knowing how it is, and knowing that it's not as scary as you might think it is, definitely helps a lot. Yeah, I mean, like Ella mentioned earlier, like it's not specifically your off the record thing, but we are planning another Youth Pride event this year. And I'm pretty sure that's happening in April. Yeah. And yeah, I've been part of that process as well. So I'll have a meeting like every other Wednesday, where we discuss what we're doing, who we want there, like budgeting, how we're going to lay it out. And yeah, that's been really, really good thing to be a part of as well.
It's very technical. Like when I was, how old was I? I was just 18. When I was planning that first one, I'd never really done anything like it, because you suddenly got to learn how to write professional emails, plan an event, plan a schedule, plan the budgeting. We were very lucky to have the support of our facilitators as well. So it wasn't entirely unaided, which was really lovely. But it's not just like, you're not like, okay, so we're just going to have all these things and it's all going to work and it'll be magic. Like you have to research for the people, you have to book the people, you have to publicize. And like, it's really quite in depth. And that's really helped me. And now I'm doing the same thing, but entirely unaided with 2 other young people, for a climate event. But that's really, really helped me. Another You're Off the Record thing that I can remember is also, I helped at the development day for the off record staff, where they all get together and they sort of presented on various areas of off the record, and they also had like an EDI afternoon, which was really nice. So I got to not only find out sort of how off the record works, but I got to sort of present about what You're Off the Record was doing as the sort of the youth consultation board of the charity, and what we're working on, how we're trying to inform strategy and policies and give feedback and keep it youth focused. So yeah, I got to speak to all the people off the record, which was really funny, seeing all the different little groups I've been part of all in one room together. It was quite funny, but it was yeah, that was really valuable as well. So it's really giving you quite a lot of like adult professional skills off the bat, which is amazing.
And this is something we don't actually, I don't think we shout about this enough in Off the Record, actually, that we, I mean, our strapline for our appeal at the moment is empowering local young people to thrive. And the you know, a lot of young people come to us in survival mode. You know, they come to us in crisis, and like the decisions and the world and climate anxiety and everything is weighing down on them. But we find that when we work for a long time with people like Ella and Andros, they just really start to shine within the organisation, and they can give back so much. And they are, you know, they are embedded in Off the Record, what we do, and it informs how we develop. The EDI is our equity, diversity and inclusion framework, and that would be meaningless without their involvement. You know, the young people are at the heart of what we do. And so their feedback and their input in recruitment and in equity and diversity and in our campaigning, it is about young people, and it's got to be done by and with young people to make it valid.
Yeah, well, certainly, you know, Andros and Ella, your passion for this comes through very clearly, but also your expertise for what you're doing. You quite clearly sort of know Off the Record inside out, and yeah, it's hearing James talk it is really just the same as listening to the two of you. It's like I'm just speaking to three regular sort of employees of Off the Record. So I can tell that you must love what you do, because you obviously have sort of got to know the charity very well, and it obviously speaks to you a great deal. So yeah, that's fantastic to hear. And James, if I could finish by coming back to you and asking you to tell me a little bit more about the Young Futures Appeal. Could you tell me a bit more about what that is?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's really exciting. It's kind of been my life's work for the last 6 months or so. So yeah, we launched the appeal in November. And the appeal is focused on 3 strategic areas of development for Off the Record, which emerged out of our strategic planning in 2021-22. And out of that, it was identified that there were three specific groups of young people who weren't engaging with our services as much as we'd like. And that's boys and young men, young people of colour, and young people from the areas of highest deprivation in Baines. And that's not unusual, I think, across mental health and working with young people. But it's something that we've identified that we really want to address. So we need to raise additional funds, because our current community listening service, we're working at full capacity, and if we're going to outreach and engage with more young people from specific areas, we need to raise more funds to do that. So we've got an ambitious target of £100,000. We got off to a cracking start in November, December. So we hit like 33% of our target within the first 2 to 3 months, and I'd like to thank Reside for being one of the organisations that backed us. And now it's just about keeping the momentum going, keeping the messaging going around the importance of doing this work. And I've been working on some funding applications as well to try and develop those areas.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, it's a real honour to be able to support the work you do. And speaking for ourselves, so we have a small team of 9, and as chance would have it, every single person who works in our team has kids, and those kids range from 1-year-old to 21-year-old. But on a certain level, we begin to understand the challenges that our kids either currently or at some point in the future face. And from that perspective, we are just always full of admiration and very grateful that there's a local charity who looks after the interests of people who are, at a relatively young age in a complex world. And so, yeah, it's a real pleasure to hear more about what you do. Andros and Ella, thank you so much, and for joining me, and also for the work you're doing for Off the Record, because it's obviously really important, and it's also great to hear that you get so much from it as well. And James, thank you for also arranging this, and to you all for giving me your time. And I guess just finally, James, just popped into my head. Obviously, you've mentioned the initiatives and the fundraising you're running. I'm sure if people Google Off the Record Bath, then they'll find your website. Is there any other way that you would like people to engage with the charity?
Well, I think, just going to our website, they can get more information on all of the things we've talked about. They can find out more about your OCR, they can find out more about the LGBTQ service, our in-care councils, etc. They can also click on the tab support, and they can find out more directly about the Young Futures Appeal, Volunteering, we are very much a volunteer organisation. We've got 5 or 6 different roles that people can engage with through volunteering. We always welcome sort of volunteer applications. So that's another way. Maybe a little bit too late for people to sign up for the Bath Half Marathon, but you know, if they want to and they're used to running it, then I'd also welcome hearing from them. It's all on our website. So yeah, just Google Off the Record Bath and North East Somerset. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for joining me.
Thanks very much.
Very much.
Thank you.